The massive halls of the Galactic Council chamber stretched up into darkness, their walls decorated with the flags of 1,000 worlds. At its center stood a single human, looking remarkably small against the towering architecture designed for beings of all sizes and shapes. Ambassador James Miller straightened his tie, a simple gesture that caught the attention of hundreds of alien eyes. The council members watched him from their elevated seats, their expressions ranging from amusement to open contempt. "You stand before the Galactic Council," announced Council Leader Marcus, his voice booming through the chamber. "Earth is the newest discovered world capable of faster-than-light travel. As per Council law, you must now integrate into our hierarchy." Miller looked up at the assembled aliens. Some were massive, with multiple limbs and eyes, while others appeared almost energy-like in their transparent chambers. All of them held positions of power earned through centuries of political maneuvering. "The terms are simple," continued Marcus, his scaled skin reflecting the chamber's soft light. "Earth will submit to Council authority. You will share your resources, follow our laws, and accept our guidance. In return, you will receive protection and limited trading rights." A quiet murmur spread through the chamber as several council members exchanged knowing looks. They had performed this ceremony hundreds of times before. No species had ever refused. "We have observed your world," spoke another council member, her crystalline form shifting colors as she talked. "Your civilization is young. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. This offer is more than generous." Miller cleared his throat. The sound echoed through the suddenly quiet chamber. "Honored members of the council," he began, his voice clear and steady. "On behalf of Earth, I thank you for this opportunity. However, we respectfully decline." The chamber erupted in surprised whispers. Council Leader Marcus leaned forward in his seat, his massive form casting a shadow over the human below. "Perhaps you don't understand," Marcus said slowly, as if speaking to a child. "This is not a negotiation. All spacefaring races must join the Council. It is our law." Miller smiled slightly. "We understand perfectly. We simply choose not to accept." "Impossible," shouted a council member from the upper tiers. "No species has ever rejected council authority." "Then we are honored to be the first," Miller replied calmly. Admiral Thompson, watching from Earth's small delegation area, held his breath. They had practiced this moment countless times, but seeing it unfold was something else entirely. Council Leader Marcus rose from his seat, his full height nearly touching the chamber's ceiling. "You do not comprehend the consequences of this decision. Without Council protection, you will be isolated. No trade, no allies, no support." Miller's expression remained unchanged. "We are prepared for those consequences. Your species will suffer," another council member called out. "Perhaps," Miller answered, "but we will suffer as free people, making our own choices." The chamber filled with angry shouts and demands. Council Leader Marcus raised a hand for silence, his eyes fixed on the small human figure below. "You have one standard day to reconsider," Marcus announced, his voice heavy with threat. "After that, Earth will face the consequences of this. Defiance." Miller bowed slightly. "We will await your next communication, though I suspect our answer will remain the same." As he turned to leave the chamber, the council members watched in stunned silence. No one moved to stop him. No one knew quite how to react to this unprecedented situation. In the Earth delegation's private chamber, Admiral Thompson met Miller with a concerned look. "Well, that went exactly as expected." Miller loosened his tie. "They're so used to being obeyed, they don't know what to do when someone says no. They'll try to force us next," Thompson warned. Miller's eyes sparkled with hidden amusement. "Oh, I'm counting on it. That's when they'll learn their first lesson about humans. Which is, never corner someone until you know exactly what they're capable of." Outside, the Galactic Council was already planning their response, unaware that this small, seemingly primitive species had been preparing for this confrontation for decades. The real game was about to begin, and humanity was holding cards no one else knew existed. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador Miller walked towards the central podium. The massive screens behind him displayed Earth's trade statistics, showing the first signs of economic pressure from the Council's restrictions. The alien representatives watched with smug satisfaction, certain that humanity would finally bend to their will. Miller adjusted his simple black tie and cleared his throat. The sound echoed through the chamber, drawing annoyed looks from several council members. Their large, ornate robes and jewelry contrasted sharply with his plain Earth suit. "Honored members of the council," Miller began, his voice steady and calm. "You have given us your warning about economic isolation. Now, please allow me to share something with you." He pressed a small button on his wrist device. The massive screens behind him suddenly changed, displaying thousands of decoded council communications. The chamber erupted in shocked whispers as private messages between council members appeared. Council leader Marcus rose from his seat, his face turning a deep shade of purple. "What is the meaning of this? How dare you?" "For the past 30 years, Miller continued, speaking over the growing noise, "Earth has been monitoring your communications. All of them, including the ones about your private mining operations in protected systems." The whispers turned to shouts of outrage. Miller stood calmly as the chaos spread through the chamber. A small smile played at the corners of his mouth. "This is impossible," shouted Representative Stone from the third tier. "Your species only achieved space flight a century ago." Miller nodded. "Yes, we did. And while you watched our rockets with amusement, our quantum computers were already breaking your encryption codes. You see, we learned about the Council long before you officially found us." He pressed another button. New images appeared, showing secret military bases and hidden resource extraction operations in systems that were supposed to be wildlife preserves. "Humanity has a saying," Miller continued. "Knowledge is power. While you saw us as primitive newcomers, we were learning everything about you. Your strengths, your weaknesses, and most importantly, your secrets." The council chamber had grown deathly quiet. Even council leader Marcus had sunk back into his seat, his face now pale. "You threatened us with economic isolation," Miller said, walking slowly around the podium. "But let me explain what will actually happen. If you proceed with your threats, we will release all of this information to every species in the galaxy. Every corrupt deal, every illegal operation, every private conversation about maintaining your power through fear and manipulation." Admiral Thompson, watching from Earth's delegation area, couldn't help but smile. The humans had planned this moment for years, gathering information, waiting for the Council to make their predictable move towards domination. Miller's voice grew softer, but everyone could still hear him clearly. "We don't want conflict. Earth would prefer to be a peaceful member of the galactic community. But we will not be bullied, and we will not be controlled." He turned to face the council leader directly. "You have 2 standard days to reconsider your position. After that, we cannot guarantee the security of this information." The threat hung in the air like a physical thing. Council member Reed, known for his moderate views, stood up slowly. "Perhaps," Reed said carefully, "we should take some time to discuss this situation more thoroughly." Miller nodded respectfully. A wise suggestion. Earth's delegation will await your response. As Miller walked out of the chamber, the screens returned to their normal display. Behind him, the council erupted into arguments and accusations. Several members were already rushing to private communication rooms, likely trying to determine exactly how much humanity knew about their personal affairs. In the Earth delegation's private chamber, Admiral Thompson met Miller with a broad smile. "Well played, James. Did you see their faces when the communications appeared?" Miller loosened his tie and sat down heavily in a chair. "Phase 2 is complete. Now we wait to see how they react." "And if they call our bluff?" Thompson asked. Miller's eyes sparkled with amusement. "Who said we're bluffing?" Outside the chamber, the Galactic Council faced its first real challenge in centuries. Humanity had just proven they were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined, not through weapons or technology, but through information and patience. The warning had been delivered, and now the galaxy waited to see what would happen next. The Council's trade restrictions hit Earth's public economy hard. On the surface, things looked grim. Stock markets dropped, and the media filled with worried reports about the planet's isolation. But deep within the asteroid belt, humanity's real work continued unnoticed. Admiral Thompson stood at the observation deck of Hidden Station Alpha, watching as another massive warship took shape in the construction bay. The station itself was invisible to most scans, hidden within a hollowed-out asteroid. It was just one of dozens scattered throughout the solar system. "Status report." He called out to his command center below. "Fleet production is ahead of schedule, sir," replied Commander West from her station. "The new quantum drives are performing better than expected. We've completed 30 ships this month alone." Thompson nodded with satisfaction. The Council's spies were watching Earth's official shipyards, reporting back about the handful of outdated vessels being built there. Meanwhile, humanity's real fleet grew in secret. "Any word from our friends in the Council?" Thompson asked. West pulled up a holographic display. "They're getting overconfident, sir. Their latest reports suggest they think we're struggling. One official even called us a broken species learning its place." Thompson couldn't help but smile. "Perfect. Keep feeding them what they want to see." In another part of the solar system, deep within the rings of Saturn, Dr. Roberts supervised the final tests of Earth's latest defensive innovation. The quantum shield generator hummed quietly, creating an invisible barrier that could stop any known weapon in the Council's arsenal. "Power output stable at 98%, reported his assistant. The Council's standard scanners read it as natural background radiation. Roberts made some final adjustments. "Excellent. Install them on all completed ships. Remember, everything must look normal from the outside." Back on Earth, Ambassador Miller sat in his office, reviewing reports from various hidden facilities. The public might see empty shelves in some stores, but underground hydroponics farms were increasing food production every day. New factories, hidden in mountain ranges and under oceans, worked at full capacity. His communication screen lit up with an incoming message from Council Space. It was their weekly demand for Earth's surrender, filled with the usual threats and warnings. "Another message from our friends?" asked his assistant, walking in with a cup of coffee. Miller nodded. "They're still convinced their economic pressure is working. Have you seen their latest intelligence report? The one saying we're on the brink of collapse." The assistant laughed. "It's amazing what people will believe when they're sure they're right." In the Kuiper Belt, Earth's most distant hidden facility worked on the final piece of the plan. Chief Engineer Parker watched as his team tested the new communication jammers, devices that could cut off the Council's faster-than-light communications in an instant. "Range test successful," reported one of his technicians. "We can disrupt their communications across 3 light years." Parker marked another item complete on his checklist. "Good. Install them on all outer system platforms. Remember, they need to look like regular survey stations." As the day ended in Geneva, Earth's public government building looked quiet and defeated. But in a secure underground room, the planet's real leadership met to review their progress. "All pieces are in place," Thompson reported to the assembled leaders. "The fleet is nearly ready. Defensive systems are operational. We can sustain ourselves indefinitely." Miller studied the latest intelligence from Council space. "They're planning to send a peacekeeping fleet soon. They think it will be enough to scare us into submission." "Are we ready?" asked one of the council members. Thompson brought up a holographic display of Earth's hidden capabilities. Hundreds of ships, advanced weapons, and defensive systems appeared in glowing blue light. "More than ready. The question is, how surprised do we want them to be?" Miller considered for a moment. "Let's not show everything at once. A good magician never reveals all their tricks." As night fell over Earth, the planet appeared quiet and subdued to watching council ships. But throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden strength grew stronger each day. The council thought they were teaching Earth a lesson. Soon, they would learn one instead. In his private quarters, Admiral Thompson looked at the latest fleet status report and smiled. Sometimes, he thought, the best strength is the kind your enemy doesn't know you have. The Council's peacekeeping fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 500 ships strong, it was the largest show of force the Council had mounted in centuries. Their silver hulls gleamed in the distant sunlight as they moved toward Earth in perfect formation. Admiral Thompson stood on the bridge of his command ship, hidden within the dark side of the moon. Around him, officers monitored their stations quietly, years of training evident in their calm demeanor. "Council fleet is broadcasting their message, sir," reported Lieutenant Baker from the communications station. The main screen displayed the Council fleet's commander, an imposing figure named General Root. His voice boomed through the bridge speakers. "People of Earth, this is your final warning. Submit to Council authority, or face the consequences. You have 1 hour to respond." Thompson pressed a button on his chair. "Ambassador Miller, they're right on schedule." In the Geneva Command Center, Miller watched multiple screens showing the Council fleet's approach. "Time to show them our first card. Proceed with Operation Surprise." Thompson nodded to his weapons officer. "Activate the quantum shields. All stations." Across the solar system, hidden defense platforms hummed to life. Invisible fields of energy spread out, forming an interlocking network of defensive barriers. To the Council's ships, it would appear as if space itself was changing. General Root was the first to notice something was wrong. The space around his fleet began to shimmer, like heat waves on a summer day. His sensors screamed warnings he'd never seen before. "What's happening?" he demanded from his science officer. Before anyone could answer, every Council ship found itself trapped within individual bubbles of quantum-shifted space. They could move, but their weapons couldn't penetrate the strange barriers surrounding them. Thompson's voice broadcast across all frequencies. "Council fleet, this is Earth Defense Command. As you can see, we've restricted your ability to fire weapons. Please don't panic. You're perfectly safe." The Council ships tried everything. Energy weapons, missiles, even their most advanced torpedoes. Nothing penetrated the quantum shields. Each attack dissipated harmlessly against the invisible barriers. General Root's face appeared on Thompson's screen, his expression a mixture of shock and rage. "Impossible. Your species doesn't have this technology. There's a lot about us you don't know, Thompson replied calmly. Ambassador Miller would like to speak with you. Miller's image replaced Thompson's. He stood in his usual simple suit, hands clasped behind his back. General Root, I hope this demonstrates why threats against Earth are unwise. We've been preparing for this moment for decades. Release our ships immediately, Root demanded. Miller shook his head. First, let's discuss the real reason you're here. Your council wants Earth's resources and technology. But as you can see, we're not the primitive species you thought we were. In the hidden shipyards throughout the asteroid belt, hundreds of Earth's advanced warships powered up their engines. They emerged from their concealment like ghosts appearing from mist, their hulls gleaming with technology far beyond Council standards. Root's eyes widened as his sensors detected the massive fleet. How did you hide all this? Carefully, Miller replied with a slight smile. Now shall we discuss a more equitable relationship between Earth and the Council, one based on mutual respect rather than threats. The Council fleet hung motionless in space, surrounded by quantum shields, and faced with a human fleet that outmatched them in both numbers and technology. General Root's shoulders slumped slightly, the universal gesture of accepting reality. I will need to contact the Council for new instructions, he said quietly. Miller nodded. Of course. Take all the time you need. We're not going anywhere. In the command center, Thompson watched as the Council fleet's aggressive posture changed to one of cautious waiting. Think they've learned their lesson. Miller studied the screens showing the shocked faces of Council officers. The first one, yes, but they have many more lessons to learn about humanity. As the Earth's fleet took up defensive positions around the Council ships, the message was clear. Humanity wasn't just ready for a fight. They had been ready for years. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. The Council chamber was in complete chaos. On the massive central screens, evidence of centuries of corruption played out for all species to see. Trade deals that had enriched Council members while impoverishing entire worlds. Secret military operations against peaceful planets. Bribes, threats, and blackmail, all now exposed to the light of day. Ambassador Miller stood calmly at the podium, letting the storm rage around him. Behind him, hundreds of data streams continued to display proof of the Council's darkest secrets. This is an outrage, shouted Council leader Marcus, his scales now a pale shade of gray. You have no right to access these private communications. Private? Miller replied, his voice cutting through the noise. Like the private deals that stripped the outer rim worlds of their resources, or the private orders to attack colonies that refused to pay your special taxes. In the public viewing galleries, representatives from younger spacefaring races watched with growing anger. Their own suspicions about Council corruption were being confirmed with every new document shown. Representative Jones from the Outer Rim colony stood up. Is it true? Did the Council deliberately crash our economy 30 years ago? Miller touched his control panel, bringing up more files. Not only did they crash it, but they also bought up your shipping companies for almost nothing afterward. Here are the transfer records. The chamber erupted again. Several Council members tried to leave, only to find the doors sealed. Earth's security teams stood guard, their advanced armor gleaming under the lights. This changes nothing, Marcus declared, though his voice trembled slightly. Earth is still isolated. No one will trade with you. Miller allowed himself a small smile. Actually, we've been busy establishing new trade routes. Would anyone like to see the Council's secret profit margins? I'm sure many worlds would be interested in more. competitive rates. Representative Lee from the Mid-Rim Systems stood up. The Mid-Rim Systems Alliance would be very interested in discussing direct trade agreements with Earth. As with the Outer Rim Confederation, Jones added quickly. In the Earth delegation's secure room, Admiral Thompson watched the proceedings with satisfaction. "The dominoes are falling exactly as planned," he said to his staff. Commander West nodded. "Several frontier systems have already contacted us about sharing our defensive technology. They're tired of paying Council protection fees." Back in the chamber, Miller was presenting his most devastating evidence yet. Proof that the Council had deliberately held back technological advancement from younger species. "For centuries," he explained, "you've claimed to be guiding younger races toward advancement. Instead, you've been ensuring they remain dependent on you. That ends today." He pressed another button, and new information filled the screens. Earth is offering free trade agreements to any independent system. We're also willing to share our defensive technology with any world that wants to protect itself. The chamber erupted in excited discussion. Dozens of representatives were already sending messages back to their homeworlds. The Council's grip on power was visibly crumbling. Marcus made one last attempt to maintain control. "This is betrayal. The Council has maintained peace for 1,000 years. Peace through fear isn't peace at all," Miller replied. "We're offering something better, partnership among equals." In a corner of the chamber, Council member Reed watched thoughtfully. He had always questioned the Council's methods, and now he saw a chance for real change. "I move for an emergency session to discuss Council reform," Reed announced, standing up. "It's time for a new approach." More Council members began to nod in agreement, seeing which way the wind was blowing. Marcus slumped in his chair, defeat written across his features. Miller looked around the chamber, seeing hope replace fear in many eyes. "Earth doesn't want to destroy the Council," he said softly. "We want to help build something better. The true alliance of worlds, working together as equals." As the day ended, new alliances were already forming. Trade agreements were being drafted, and plans for sharing technology were underway. The galaxy was changing, not through war or violence, but through the exposure of truth and the offer of a better way. In the Earth delegation's room, Thompson looked at Miller. "Think they understand yet?" Miller watched the busy chamber through the window. "They're beginning to learn that humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology or our fleet." "Oh, what is it then?" "Our ability to imagine a better future, and our determination to make it real." The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within a week of Earth's revelations, 23 star systems had declared their independence from Council rule. Within 2 weeks, that number had doubled. From his new office in the newly established Free Systems Alliance headquarters, Ambassador Miller watched the latest reports coming in. Holographic displays showed hundreds of ships moving across star charts as trade routes shifted and new alliances formed. "Another 3 systems have requested our quantum shield technology," reported Commander West, handing him a datapad. "The Outer Rim worlds are particularly eager." Miller nodded, studying the requests. "Approved them all. Remember our only condition. No offensive weapons, only defensive systems," West finished. They all agreed readily. After centuries of Council protection, they're happy just to be able to defend themselves. In the Council's emergency session chamber, the old order was crumbling. Council leader Marcus watched helplessly as more representatives announced their withdrawal from Council authority. "You don't understand what you're doing," he shouted at the departing delegates. "Without the Council's structure, there will be chaos." Representative Jones from the Outer Rim stood up. The only chaos is coming from those trying to hold on to power they never should have had. My people have voted to join the Free Systems Alliance. As have mine, added another delegate. Then another and another. Admiral Thompson, watching from Earth's new embassy, couldn't help but smile. It's amazing how quickly things change when people lose their fear. In space, the transformation was even more dramatic. Earth's shipyards were working at full capacity, but not building weapons. Instead, they were producing defensive systems, trade ships, and new communication arrays for their allies. The sight of Council warships, once feared throughout the galaxy, now drew little attention. Their weapons were useless against Earth's quantum shields, which now protected dozens of formerly vulnerable worlds. Status report on the shield network. Thompson asked his command staff. 37 systems are now fully protected. Lieutenant Baker replied. We've trained local crews to maintain the generators. The Council's military advantage is effectively neutralized. In a historic moment, representatives from 50 independent systems gathered in Earth's orbital station to sign the Free Systems Alliance Charter. The massive station's conference room was filled with beings of all shapes and sizes, many former enemies now sitting together as equals. Miller stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled delegates. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history, not one written by force or fear, but by cooperation and mutual respect. The signing ceremony was broadcast across thousands of worlds. Crowds gathered in alien cities cheered as their representatives signed the document. Even some council worlds were showing the broadcast, despite official attempts to block it. Back in the council chamber, now half empty, Marcus met with his few remaining loyal members. We must respond with force, one hardliner demanded. Marcus shook his head wearily. Their quantum shields make our weapons useless. And now they're sharing the technology. We waited too long to stop them. In Earth's military command center, Thompson received an unexpected message. Several Council military commanders wanted to discuss switching allegiance to the Alliance. They say they're tired of being the Council's enforcers, West explained. They want to protect people, not threaten them. Miller, joining the discussion via hologram, smiled. Invite them for talks. Show them we're willing to forgive past actions if they're genuine about change. The revolution continued to spread, but it wasn't one with weapons or battles. It was one with truth, technology, and the offer of a better way. Worlds that had feared each other for centuries were now establishing diplomatic relations. In his private office, Miller looked at an old photo of Earth taken from space. Did you ever think we'd change the galaxy this much? He asked Thompson's hologram. Thompson chuckled. Honestly, I thought we'd end up fighting a war. Trust humanity to find a way to win without firing a shot. The best victories, Miller replied, are the ones where everyone wins in the end. Across the galaxy, ships were moving freely through space, trading and exploring without fear. The stars themselves seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the hope of countless worlds finally free to chart their own course. 1 year after Earth's historic stand against the Council, the galaxy had changed beyond recognition. The massive chamber that once housed the Galactic Council now served as the meeting place for the Free Systems Alliance, its old symbols of power replaced by the flags of equal member worlds. Ambassador Miller stood at one of the chamber's giant windows, watching ships from dozens of different species moving peacefully through space. Behind him, the sound of friendly conversation filled the room as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for the first anniversary celebration. Quite a different atmosphere from your first visit here, said former council member Reed, now serving as one of the Alliance's chief coordinators. He handed Miller a cup of Earth coffee, a drink that had become surprisingly popular among alien species. "Hard to believe it was just a year ago," Miller replied, accepting the drink. "Remember how they all looked down at us from those high seats?" Reed laughed, his crystalline form catching the light. "Now look at us, sitting together as equals, sharing coffee. By the way, my world scientists are still trying to figure out how you hid that fleet for so long." In another part of the chamber, Admiral Thompson was showing a group of younger species representatives the latest improvements to the quantum shield technology. Earth had kept its promise, sharing defensive innovations while carefully avoiding weapons of mass destruction. "The new shields are 30% more efficient," Thompson explained, pointing to a holographic display. "And they're easier to maintain. Any world with basic industrial capacity can produce them now." "Our people sleep better knowing we can protect ourselves," said one of the representatives. "No more paying tribute to the Council for protection we never really got." The main doors opened, and a familiar figure walked in. Former Council leader Marcus, now stripped of his titles, but invited as a gesture of reconciliation, moved hesitantly into the chamber. The room didn't fall silent. Instead, several representatives nodded to him politely. Miller walked over to greet him. "Glad you could make it," he said, offering a cup of coffee. Marcus accepted it awkwardly. "I still don't understand how you did it. How did humans manage to change everything so quickly?" "We didn't do it alone," Miller replied. "We just showed people there was another way. They chose to take it." Across the chamber, Commander West was coordinating with the new Galactic Emergency Response Team, a joint force dedicated to helping worlds in crisis. On her screens, ships from a dozen species worked together to evacuate a planet threatened by solar flares. "Response time is down to 6 hours, she reported proudly. "Working together, we can save more lives than any single species could alone." In the center of the chamber, a new holographic display showed the current state of galactic trade. Green lines crisscrossed space, showing commerce flowing freely between worlds. The old Council trade restrictions were gone, replaced by fair agreements that benefited all parties. "Trade volume is up 300%, Representative Jones announced to applause. "And without Council tariffs, even the poorest worlds can afford to participate." Miller took his place at the simple podium, no longer elevated above the others, and called for attention. The chamber quieted, but not out of fear as it once had. There was respect in the silence, and something more: hope. 1 year ago, he began, humanity faced a choice: submit to control or stand for something better. We chose to stand, not just for ourselves, but for every species that dreamed of true freedom. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of beings from across the galaxy. "Today, we celebrate not just our independence, but our interdependence. We're stronger together, not because we're forced to be, but because we choose to be." As if to emphasize his words, a new star map appeared above them, showing the latest additions to the Alliance. Worlds that had been enemies for centuries were now partners, their combined achievements far surpassing what any could have done alone. In the observation lounge afterward, Thompson joined Miller at the window. "You know, the Council thought they were teaching us a lesson about power." Miller smiled, watching the ships moving peacefully through space. "Instead, we taught the galaxy a lesson about unity." "And what lesson was that?" "That the strongest power in the universe isn't force or fear," Miller replied. "It's the simple ability to stand together and say, 'We choose a better way.'" The stars seemed to shine brighter that day, as if reflecting the hope of countless worlds finally free to build the future they had always dreamed of, but never dared to create.